this president has failed the American people. He got up there and gave a speech last night. It was like Groundhog Day all over again. He said the same things and the same results we're seeing today. People are not working. And we know what it takes to put people back to work. He said some of those things last night, lowering corporate taxes, lowering regulations, opening up all of the above in energy, cracking down on China. He just doesn't do any of those things. And if I'm president, I will do those things, and I'll get you back to work. Thank you.
Good morning. It is Friday, 8 o'clock on the East Coast as you take a live look at New York City. Welcome to Morning Joe. Back with us on set, Mike Barnicle, looking very handsome today.
Thank you very much.
Do you have tube socks on?
I do.
Okay. Mark Halperin's with us as well.
You know, there were so many different storylines in that debate. It was one of the most fascinating ones I've seen.
Bottom line, though?
Bottom line is Rick Santorum had a great performance. Mitt Romney was pretty darn good.
Come on now.
And Newt Gingrich didn't show up. It was one of the stranger storylines of this Republican campaign. Asked afterward by the press in the spin room, you know, where people basically say that candidates that vomited on their lapels had a stellar night. Newt Gingrich's spokesman was asked, why wasn't Newt more aggressive? His answer, I don't know. They then asked the question of Fred Thompson, who recently endorsed Newt Gingrich. Why wasn't Newt more aggressive? I don't know.
That's a good answer.
It was pretty surreal. Mark Halperin,
he was exploring space.
What got into Newt last night? What was going on?
In the immortal words of Fred Thompson, I don't know.
Wasn't that strange?
I think the answer is the Romney campaign for the last few days executed perfectly to discombobulate him, to push him back, to make him angry and unfocused. He spent the whole night on the defensive badly. The few times he went on the offensive, Romney pushed it right back at him. And
but he let a lot of softballs just go by. A lot of times he could have hammered Romney, and he didn't do it.
His mind was not in a great place. It was in a defensive and angry place, and Romney was totally equipped to dismantle whatever Gingrich tried to throw at him. Yeah, push him back.
Willie Romney had a very good night. Rick Santorum, though, most people I talk to think if you just look at who did the best last night, Rick Santorum had a great night.
He had a great night. Mitt Romney also had a great night, but I think Santorum's long dissection of Romney care and drawing Romney into that debate where Romney had to explain, went back 3 or 4 times, how it was different than President Obama's Affordable Care Act.
Right.
And it didn't sound different from President Obama's. I think that is an argument that the White House liked hearing and something that you'll hear again if Romney makes it through to a general election. But yeah, and I think one way he might have helped Romney actually was when Santorum said, can we drop all this nonsense? Yeah. Can we drop the nonsense? He's rich. He was successful. I think to Republican voters, that's going to ring with them.
But the headline of this, Mike, if we're going to grade these the way that Harvard's Mark Halperin grades it with a grade inflation, you always give the students who are at the front of the class from the richest families.
Yeah, you know their parents.
The most connected. You know, the ones that you know are going to win in life anyway, you always give them the highest grade. That's how Halperin does it. So the practical effect of this is that Romney won the night, because chances are very good that if Romney wins Florida, this is going to be why.
Well,
and by the way, just for people at home that didn't see our discussion before, Mark Halperin actually doesn't grade just on performance that night, or else he probably would have put Santorum first. We'll talk to him in a second. But it's how does this debate actually affect the outcome? And judged by that standard, Mitt Romney was a big winner.
Watching that debate last night, I saw a Mitt Romney that I have not seen before. I mean, who was this guy? He was no longer the dressing room fighter who's going to, here's what I'm going to do when he's talking to you about the campaign and the candidacy of Newt Gingrich. He stood up on that stage yesterday and basically turned to Newt and said, you're not taking my lunch anymore. You're going to stop doing this, and pushed him right back. And I don't know whether that had anything to do with Newt's demeanor the rest of the night, that he may have been so surprised at Romney's assault on him that he didn't know how to handle it because he never expected it. Because I think few people who know Romney would have expected him to do that last night. Does he have a new debate coach? Didn't he just get a new debate coach?
He does. He's got a new debate coach, but I think it's more that we've seen this side of him before. I disagree with those respectfully who say we've never seen this side of him. He's been good in a lot of the debates. He hasn't been of late, but
he hasn't been as contentious.
You talking about Romney?
Yeah.
I disagree. I think when he's needed to be, he's chosen in most of the previous debates not to be because he didn't need to be. But when he's been threatened, he's been pretty contentious. Remember what it was like with Rick Perry when Perry was a threat to him.
Yeah.
I think he. Go ahead.
No. Mika, I just want to say really quickly that I don't think you can overestimate what a rough day it was for Newt Gingrich yesterday. Here's a guy who believes, and I think rightly so, that he extended the Reagan Revolution to Congress, to the legislative branch, that he should be seen as the conservative hero of the past 20 years. And yet yesterday, this guy got absolutely killed by conservatives. There was a Politico article. And you got, for a guy that aides like Susan Molinari have said is prone to self-pity at times when he's getting kicked. Think about it. Ann Coulter came out yesterday eviscerating him. There were stories all over Drudge, a site that he's advertised on, I think, for years, eviscerating him from conservatives. Tom DeLay came out, kicked him around, said he wasn't a conservative. Reagan administration officials came out, kicked him around. Bob Dole came out, kicked him around. It wasn't just the Washington Republican establishment like Bob Dole. It was the wide specter of a Republican Party that, for better or for worse, Newt Gingrich brought to the majority of Congress for the first time in a generation. I think that would weigh heavy on anybody and may have got him off of his game last night.
Well, actually, the piece that you're writing for Politico basically characterizes what you saw last night and all the peaks and valleys of his career, because they're not just ups, there's up and wide swings to down, and we're literally watching that unfold before our eyes. Let's go through some of these moments. The two frontrunners, of course, sparred over lots of different issues, including immigration policy, and also they talked about a harsh anti-Romney attack ad that Newt Gingrich pulled off the air after Republicans, including Florida Senator Marco Rubio, criticized it as unfair. Take a look.
In the original conversations about deportation, the position I took, which he attacked pretty ferociously, was that grandmothers and grandfathers aren't going to be successfully deported. We as a nation are not going to walk into some family, and by the way, they're going to end up in a church, which will declare them a sanctuary. We're not going to walk in there and grab a grandmother out and then kick them out. We're not going to, and I think you have to be realistic in your indignation. I want to control the border. I want English to be the official language of government. I want us to have a lot of changes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not anti-immigrant. My father was born in Mexico. My wife's father was born in Wales. They came to this country. The idea that I'm anti-immigrant is repulsive. Don't use a term like that. You can say we disagree on certain policies, but to say that enforcing the U.S. law to protect our borders, to welcome people here legally, to expand legal immigration, as I approve, that's somehow anti-immigrant is simply the kind of over-the-top rhetoric that has characterized American politics too long. And I'm glad that Marco Rubio called you out on it. I'm glad you withdrew it. I think you should apologize for it. And I think you should recognize that having differences of opinions on issues does not justify labeling people with highly charged epithets.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you an opportunity to self-describe. You tell me what language you would use to describe somebody who thinks that deporting a grandmother or a grandfather from their family, just tell me the language. I'm perfectly happy for you to explain what language you'd use.
I'm not going to go find grandmothers and take them out of their homes and deport them. Those are your words, not my words. And to use that rhetoric suggests to people that somehow, if you're not willing to keep people here who violated the law, that you're anti-immigrant. Nothing could be further from the truth. Our problem is not 11 million grandmothers. Our problem is, all right. Our problem is 11 million people getting jobs that many Americans, legal immigrants, would like to have.
All right, so Mark Halperin, throughout this campaign, Mitt Romney has shown different strengths at different times. Last night, all of them were on display. I mean, that's one example right there.
He was very strong. He was funny at times. He was principled at times. But let's not forget what his campaign has done in the last week to position him for that debate. Joe mentioned some of these conservatives who came out across the conservative spectrum, establishment, anti-establishment. Bill Clinton, one of his favorite expressions is, if you see a turtle on a fence post, you know it didn't get there by itself. The Romney campaign has orchestrated at least 80% of this. And it not only has dominated the news cycle in Florida for the last few days, but there's no doubt that it discombobulated Gingrich. We saw the same thing in Iowa. When he's been attacked, he gets indignant and completely off his game and tries to make the dialogue about Gingrich and being attacked and the unfairness of it all. And Romney just was a perfect counterpoint to that. Didn't get drawn into his own attacks, but chose the moments where he wanted to engage.
Are you saying that Romney is a turtle on a fence post?
I'm saying that a lot of what we've seen that has discombobulated Gingrich has been orchestrated by a little headquarters in the North End up in Boston. And one of the brilliant moments Romney had yesterday was when the topic, Wolf Blitzer brought up the topic of who's more like Reagan. And Romney's like, Gingrich is closer to Reagan. Right. He just stepped back. He didn't fight on it. Brilliant. And just part of an overall package of why Romney had such a good night and why he's so well positioned.
By the way, they knew that was coming.
Of course.
They knew it was coming. And in fact, I talked to somebody a couple of days ago who said Gingrich is running around talking about how he's Reagan, despite the fact he trashed Reagan time and again on the House floor. Said we're not going there,
right.
because if we go there, we know it doesn't end badly. I mean, it doesn't end well. But you know what's interesting about this, Willie, is this debate, which had a pro-Romney crowd.
Yep.
You would have thought it may have been in Sarasota or maybe in Southwest Florida, where Romney-type voters are. It was in Jacksonville, which is
that's the South.
The stretch from Jacksonville to Pensacola should be Gingrich territory.
I bet you, though, that's another turtle put on the fence post.
There you go.
I bet you the Romney campaign finally figured out, you know what, let's not just see who shows up. Let's get our people in.
Well, good for them, because they haven't served him well up until now.
That immigration answer we showed, it was the first or the second question. That set the tone immediately for the night. Romney was prepared with his answer. He had Gingrich back on his heels, and it was clear that this was not going to be like the previous debates in South Carolina, where Gingrich was going to get off his one-liners and have the crowd come to its feet. And the one time he tried the John King move, where he challenged Wolf Blitzer and said, we're not going to, that's an absurd question. Wolf Blitzer actually shut him down and said, no, wait a minute. You just said this on the trail 2 days ago. You talked about Swiss bank accounts in the Cayman Islands. And that gave Romney the opening then to say, wouldn't it be nice if we had a candidate up here who was willing to repeat to my face what he said out on the trail. Yeah. So all those things that worked in South Carolina for Gingrich backfired on him last night.
Can I say one thing? Clearly there's a conventional wisdom now amongst the entire media and a lot of the Republican establishment, which is Gingrich needed a strong debate, didn't have it. Romney was awesome, Santorum was awesome, and therefore he's going to grow, and that'll take votes from Gingrich, and that this is over. That's the conventional wisdom. And I have to tell you, we've seen the conventional wisdom has been wrong a lot. Gingrich and his super PAC have millions of dollars on in Florida. Gingrich is a fighter, and Romney still has a ceiling in Florida. So while the conventional wisdom is that this is over, I'd still want to see what happens over the next 5
again,
days.
Florida is not Iowa. Florida is not New Hampshire. Yeah, as I've said before, and anybody that lives in Florida knows, I mean, if you have a great debate performance in Concord, they know about it all the way from Dartmouth down to Manchester. If you have a great performance in Coral Gables, chances are really good they don't know about it on the other side of Coral Gables.
That's the difficulty of
because Florida is, Florida is a mighty river that flows, and I mean, people are doing a million different things. Like for instance, you could have a baseball team, Mike, that wins a World Series, and nobody would go out and see them play.
That's right, in Tampa. The biggest difficulty for Gingrich off of last night, though, could well be a little guy sitting out there watching this debate in Las Vegas, Sheldon Adelson, thinking, I'm through writing checks here.
Yeah, I'm done.
That's another piece of conventional wisdom, right? I agree that it could be. He could also say, Newt's been mistreated. Newt's been attacked. Newt didn't have enough money early on. I'm going to invest more.
Oh, Lord.
But there's another guy in the Rocky Mountain West that was watching last night going, this Rick Santorum guy's doing okay. I'm going to write some more checks. I'm telling you,
Santorum had a big night.
Santorum had a big night. He could show some movement in Florida, and that's very important for the Super Tuesday states in the South. If Rick Santorum becomes the evangelicals' a candidate, he's going to pick up some delegates moving forward.
Looking ahead to